All right, so I want to welcome everyone to our webinar today, 6 small business lessons to take into 2021. Now, we all know the COVID-19 pandemic has really forced businesses of all kinds to modify day-to-day operations and really adapt to doing business primarily online. Those one-time things that we thought were nice to-dos in the future, when it comes to online marketing, have now become a necessity, and that's because digital marketing channels are really one of the best ways to stay in contact with customers. As COVID-19 continues to push people outside of their comfort zones, businesses that are pivoting to a digital-first marketing strategy have really been able to survive and even thrive in the transformed marketplace. We've spent the past year working with a lot of small businesses in order to help them make the best use of digital marketing tools so that they could thrive last year and even beyond. Now, in this webinar today, we're actually going to be sharing with you the top 6 lessons that we learned from small businesses as they navigated such an uncertain year. So I'm going to go ahead and play a video. Take a look.
Since the pandemic, we've been able to connect our local and global communities virtually.
Adding online ordering to our website was a game changer.
Showing up where people are, that's what matters to them, and that's what we're hearing. People are saying, wow, I just love knowing you're there.
One email can go a long way.
In order to stay in touch with our customers during this time, the first thing we did was to create a whole new website.
All right, so with all of that in mind, let's go ahead and see more specifically what we're going to be covering in today's webinar. We're going to start by talking about more in depth about the 6 lessons we just saw in the video. We have a great guest expert who's going to be talking with us through those 6 lessons. We're going to be sharing some real world examples of how Constant Contact customers have really persevered. And we'll be providing simple actions you can take to thrive in 2021. With all that in mind, let's go ahead. I just want to introduce myself a little bit more quickly. My name is Stephanie French, and I'm the content manager for webinars here at Constant Contact. And I'm very excited to have our guest expert for the day, Dave Charest, join us. He's the Director of Content Marketing for Constant Contact.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Steph. Thanks so much for having me here today. I'm sure we can all agree 2020 has been a tough year for many people, prosperous for many others. And on either side of what happened last year, there's really lots that we can kind of take into 2021. So I'm excited to be here today.
Thank you so much for joining us. We're excited you're able to share all of your expertise with us. Now, the first lesson we learned from 2020 is really don't be afraid to try something new. And I say this is something that a lot of small businesses tend to really struggle with. Can you talk about why this is such an important lesson that we learned in the last year?
Sure. I think we're all creatures of habit, right? And so all of a sudden we're kind of forced to make all of these changes, and with those constraints that were kind of thrust upon us, it's a new way to look at things. And I think one of our colleagues, Jenna, whose family owns a restaurant, she summed it up in a really with a really interesting approach that I thought was apropos of the situation, which was to ask really, what if this was day one of our business with everything that was going on, and what would we need to do to be successful? And so it kind of puts you in this different frame of mind where you're starting to look for what are the things that you need to do right in this moment to kind of push forward. And I think, we've seen across the board, and many of the things that we'll talk about here today, it's really accelerated the need for people to maybe do things that they know they've always wanted to try, particularly just getting online in general, but pushing you forward to kind of look at things and have to do things a different way in order to continue to be successful with the moments happening right now. So I think that's why that's really so important.
I completely agree. Now, are there any specific opportunities, maybe in a general sense, that you've seen small businesses might really want to take advantage of especially this year?
Well, obviously we've seen businesses get online in ways that they really haven't in the past, so that they can, communicate with people more frequently and on a regular basis and get in front of them. I think we've seen people adapt the services that they offer. Some things that come to mind are things like, I think of our friends over at the cheese shop doing curbside pickup, things like that, creating kind of dinners to bring home, or other businesses creating kind of kits that would be things that they would normally do in a physical location, to take those home and do things with people. Thinking of new ways to engage and get people involved, whether that's doing a virtual event or something like that. And of course, selling online is one of those big things that was huge as we got to the end of the year. And whether that's buy online and pick up at store, there's been so many people shopping online and doing those things, that those are just some of the ways that we've seen people kind of pivot, to use that word that's been a little bit overused at this point, but really that's what people have had to do, and taking advantage of those tools and the technology that thankfully we have at this particular moment in time. And so I think also that another thing I'll add, that I think many of these things that have been working for people, and many of the examples that we'll see here today are at some point things that make continue to carry on and carry over into their business and become permanent parts of what they do, which I think is great and interesting.
Definitely, and we'll see that in a few of the customer examples. Let's go ahead and take a look at the first example here, which is Afroflow Yoga, which is actually one of our customers, and we felt they adapted really well at the start of the pandemic to actually try new things. Can you talk a little bit more about how they adjusted and the changes they made?
Sure. This was a business that was really traveling around the world, doing classes, and connecting with people in person, of course. And really, what they did, they spent 10 years doing that, right? And so what they did was they instead of shutting down, they figured out, okay, what do we need to do to launch virtual classes? And they got their studio set up, and they told their customers via email, got the word out. And as I mentioned, things sticking, the classes did really well, and they were able to bring people from around the world together versus having to be in those specific locations. And they're looking forward to offering the hybrid of things that they're doing in terms of in-person and virtual classes in the future, as things start to move back to normal, so to speak, right? So it's been really interesting and inspiring, some of the things that they've done and how they've jumped into taking advantage of what the situation was offering them,
So this customer in particular, launched virtual events, and definitely something to try in a variety of different ways, if you haven't already. But Dave, what tips do you have for using marketing to really drive registrations and attendees to these virtual events?
Well, I think what you want to do is you want to make sure that when you're creating these events, you're doing something that is solving a problem for them in some way, and that doesn't have to be like a hard cut problem, right? Like I think we found this year, particularly with parents and folks at home, they're looking for something to keep kids occupied, or to do something together as a family when they can't go out and do things. And so it can be simple things like that. You're solving that problem for somebody, but I think it's really thinking about that, and then it's using those tools you have available to you, email, social media, all of that, your website, updating people, letting them know about it and getting the word out there about it. And so you can do that. And I think, maybe we can find a link to, we've talked about just running virtual events in the past as well, and just some tips of actually doing the events themselves. But I think it's coming up with the concept, coming up with the idea, and something that will be attractive to people, that will get people in based on what the nature of your business is. And oftentimes, that comes down to really understanding and knowing your customers and knowing the community that you serve, so you can come up with some cool and fun ideas that will bring people in.
Definitely great. And I loved your point. Really want to reiterate here is make the event and make your promotions about it as solving a problem for your audience. Now, what are some specific actions that our audience could take in order to try new things? Make them feel a little bit more comfortable here.
Well, we mentioned, of course, you really need to kind of modify and adapt what you're doing to whatever the demands of the particular situation and requirements are of that situation going on, particularly with obviously all these new COVID regulations and those types of things. Another thing to think about is, send out a survey to your audience if you're not in touch with them on a regular basis, or you haven't been because of, what the stipulations have been. Find out some things that maybe, they can help you with some ideas of things maybe they'd like to see. You can also, survey people to find out with the things that you have been doing, what have you been doing well? What have they appreciated, or what are they missing from you at this particular time? And then, of course, I think it's, about trying new tools. I mean, like I said, I think we've mentioned earlier that we've seen so many people kind of accelerate their use of these online tools that they have available to them now, because it's oftentimes the only way that they've had to communicate with people. And so make sure you're taking advantage of those tools and getting the word out. And we've seen so many people are at this particular time interested in helping and supporting small businesses, myself included, that we like to share those things too when we see the unique ways that kind of people are trying to stay connected to people and keep their businesses going. So it's good to do that as well.
Agreed. And I just want to mention, we do have a survey tool in Constant Contact. If you've been a customer with us for a while, we do have an existing tool, but I'm actually really excited to let you all know we've actually got a new survey tool that's actually rolling out over the next several months. So you might see that in your account, but definitely something to try if you want to learn how you can really improve your business and make better connections and relationships with your customers. Definitely something to try. Now let's move on to lesson number 2, which is stay in touch and top of mind. Can you really talk about the impact of staying in touch, especially when everything started going crazy last March?
So, I mean, I think the basis of it is that, right, communication is really the key to any relationship, right? And so whether that's business relationships or personal relationships, those are really the key to that. And so last year, we really saw, obviously, the need to communicate changes with people, to let them know what's going on, whether or not you were even open, right, in certain states, and how people can do business with you. And so I think one of the nicest things that I like seeing out of this is that I think it really brought to the forefront this the positive impact that real, like, human communications it can have versus what we would typically might deem as more like marketing type messages. This was real people communicating what was going on, letting people know how they can support the business and what they need to know before they even try to do that. And I think people, appreciated being informed and knowing what businesses in particular were doing to keep them safe if there were any regulations that they needed to follow. And so I think, frankly, myself included, people wanted, like I mentioned, people wanted to support small businesses as much as they could. And so communicating on how people could do that was just really important.
So you've got all this communication that you're doing to let people know about the changes affecting your business. and then on top of marketing. Can you talk about how often small businesses should actually be communicating and a good frequency there?
Yeah, so frequency is a big question, right? I think all the time, whether that's in a crisis moment or pandemic moment like we're having, or in just in general. And so it often depends on a lot of factors, right? And I think those factors include the nature of the business, the relationship you already have with your customers, and frankly, particularly in this times like this, is whether or not that message is actually necessary. And I think those are the things that you want to consider on whether or not you need to send out a message. I think in general we're talking about, right? Like, let's say in general we're talking about on a normal day when things are fine, you're going to send an email maybe once a month or every other week, or maybe even once a week, again depending on the nature of your business. And I think the frequency changes based on the importance of the messages or the things that you need to communicate and the things that your customers need to know. And I think we've all probably gotten some of those kind of CEO type messages that really didn't say anything meaningful, right? And they weren't necessarily helpful, so you didn't need to receive those, right? But if you think of, I'm thinking in particular in relation to like a grocery store or maybe a restaurant or something like that, where you may want to communicate it a bit more frequently, particularly if things are changing based on how people need to engage with your business. And so I think those are the things you kind of want to weigh. It's almost like a little diagram of like, okay, like this is changing, this impacts people this way, people should know about this before they come in, so you might want to communicate a little bit more frequently. And so that just means making sure that if something changes that's of value that they need to know in order to do business with you, like that's something that you want to think about updating on your social channels, on all of the channels that you own, on your website, and sending a message about that to draw attention to that, to let people know, so that they're kind of in the know before they start taking those steps to come do business with you.
Yeah, so I see we've got a lot of people asking about like the types of tools, and we'll cover a lot of them as we go through today, but like email and social should definitely be playing a role there as well. Now, our customer, the Energy Bar, actually really pivoted their business and communicated every step of the way. Could you tell us a little bit more about the steps that they took?
Yeah, so Juliana, who's the owner of this business, she has a really close-knit group of clients, and they serve through fitness and wellness classes. And so when the pandemic hit, obviously there was a lot of things going on in terms of how many people you can have in the studio, social distancing, all of that. And so all along the way, whenever there was a change or something people needed to know in relation to the classes, and of course they started offering those virtual, and it actually accelerated her use of creating more on-demand classes for people as well. Again, another thing that come out of this that again accelerated the use of something that you probably wanted to do anyway, right? And so communicated all the time, let people know, whether that was on social, whether she was doing like videos on social or updating status updates, that type of thing, but emailing people, emailing the customers, or clients, making sure that they knew, here's what you need to know about what the schedule is, when things are opening, what the, how you can come to class when that was around. And of course, even talking about the social issues that came up throughout the year that were important to her community. So really, again, I think it's a question of, not thinking of it as, marketing to people as much as, or advertising and that type of thing, as much as communicating the things that people need to know and that are important to the community that you serve.
Agree, great points there. Now, can you break it down into some more specific actions that you think our audience should take to stay top of mind?
Well, I mean, I think the big things are, right, reaching customers where they are. You want to use all of those channels available to you to do that. You want to update those channels more frequently than you think you may need to. And you can also just keep an eye on things like your opens and click reports, your spam reports, like those types of things in particular to email marketing. You can look at engagement levels on those other social sites. But I think it's really important to do those things and use those channels because you're not really sure where somebody is going to find you or find that information. I mean, I know we've spent a lot of time, particularly in the early days of kind of being on lockdown and doing that and looking for businesses that something that we could do to get out of the house. We would travel and get some like pizza from people. I've told this story before, but we would go so we were looking for people for like an hour's drive away to go find some pizza, grab something and eat in the car, right? And we called them our car pizza trips. And so every time before we would go someplace, of course, I'm looking for the place to go, and then I'm checking their websites. Are you open? Are you even open? Like, what is the process that I need to know before I even get there? And so that's why it's important across all those different channels to make sure that the information is up to date and that you have that stuff out there.
Now, what are some of the most important channels that you think everyone should keep updated?
Yeah, so first and foremost, I think it's your website for sure. And it highlights to me actually the importance. I think a lot of small business owners in particular can be held hostage by the people that that have made their websites. And so it's often a few steps that you have to take to get something updated. And so that's why it's really important to be able to do that right away and quickly if possible. And so that's the main one. I mean, I have also personally run into situations where was trying to try out this new barbecue place with the family, and I actually went to their website and I could order online, and I was able to put the order in ahead of time, and I put the order in for a day that then I found out they're actually not even open on that day. So I was like, okay, because like, again, they didn't update their website, right? And so that information wasn't there. And so I think website first and foremost, because that's oftentimes one of the places people are going to go. People are also going to go to your social channels. They're going to take a look and see what's going on. And so you want to make sure that that information is updated. You also want to think about any of those kind of like listing sites when, you know, here I'm thinking about a Yelp or even a Google My Business, something like that. Those are often things that people just find through search, right? So they're not always going to call you, right? They're just going to look for that information. I mean, I know personally, Steph, I can't speak for you, but I know like oftentimes I don't necessarily want to pick up the phone and call somebody, right? Like I just want to find out what the information that I need to know. And so you want to make sure that all of those kind of major things, and I think we talk about this a lot, is, you know, do a quick search for your business name, see what comes up on that first page, and if there are places that you can, you have access to update that information and make sure that you do that, because that's how people are finding you as well. So those are all kind of the major things that you want to make sure that you're doing and updating for people and keeping that up to date.
Agreed. And Google My Business is one of those first things that pops up in a Google search. And I myself, like you were saying, have run into a few instances where I'm trying to go to one of the small businesses and it says they're open and I'm not really sure if they're open. So, you know, if I have the time, I might just go over there. But, you know, a lot of people, like Dave said, aren't going to pick up the phone, or they might just say, I'm not sure if they're open. I'm not going to waste the trip. So you did mention social media, and another question that I've seen in the registration, and I think a few other times throughout the Q&A box here, is what are some of the most important social channels to be on?
Well, I mean, so they're the major ones, right? There's Facebook, there's Instagram, there's Twitter. You know, those are probably the big ones. There's LinkedIn, depending on, again, the nature of your business, if you're more of a B2B, excuse me. And so I think really what you need to do is, when you're considering those, if you're not on social channels already, you need to pick ones that, you know, your audience is most likely to be on. Those are the ones, and I mean, obviously everybody's on Facebook, but maybe that's not appropriate for your business. And so you really need to think through that. You know, the advice we offer to everybody, particularly if you're just getting started with this, is making sure that you're not spreading yourself too thin, right? Really say, okay, I'm going to spend the next, you know, 3 to 4 months, and I'm really going to be focused on Facebook and how I can use Facebook to help bring in more business or communicate, engage with people to get the word out about my business even, right? And so it's hard to say what the most important channel is, because like I think it's really business dependent, and you've got to consider what is the personality of your business as well, and what is the nature of the business, because each of the social channels have a little bit different thing going on for it, and that allows you to kind of decide what is best for you. But I think the ones to look at And we have tons of information on the Constant Contact blog and Constant Contact Wrapper to help you kind of think through and decide which ones are the right ones for you, and what are the personalities of each of them. But I think what it's really about is when you do choose one, you stick with that one and really try to get the best use out of that, so you can actually see some return on the efforts that you're putting into it.
And once you have more resources and you've done all of that learning, you can actually, like it says here, use the stats that you're seeing there. What are the topics or types of posts that people are interacting with?
Yeah.
And if you're ready to expand to those other channels, that's your chance to do so, because you've got some good learnings that you can apply to those other channels. So great point there. All right, so let's move on to the third lesson, which is actually doing more business online, something that's been huge this past year. Can you talk a little bit more about the importance of doing more business online in today's world? I know it seems a little bit obvious, but I also know we've got some stats here.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. We did a small business pulse survey, and we talked to actually customers about how they are interacting with small businesses at this time. And you're right, it is kind of obvious, but I'm also very surprised sometimes by how many people that aren't actually selling online and doing these things now. And we saw that 70% of consumers have visited a small business at least once a month. And they have also, compared to 2019, 60% have said that they have had made more of an effort to support a local business in their community in 2020. But the interesting thing here is that only 10% actually needed to visit a physical store in order to do that, right? And so like feel that they need to visit the store. And so that just shows you that people want to support you. They want to be out there and helping where they can, but particularly with all these regulations going on and whatever the cases may be, like so many people that they would rather just shop online if they can, right? Even if that means buying online and just driving by to pick it up, right? And so this leads us to this idea that a website and the ability to do business online, of course, is just increasingly important. And so if you're not selling online, I hope if there's one message that you get out of any of these things that have happened or any of the lessons that we've learned, even if you feel like your business probably isn't the type that needs to be selling online, there might be something. Just like reconsider that again, because there's probably some way that you can make it easier for people to do business with you by having some component of it online. So.
Yeah, even if it's, buying a consultation with you or setting up that service online, I know it's all about convenience for me, and I know a lot of people in today's world. Now, I'd actually, on Dave's note about, 10% only needing to visit a physical store from the Pulse survey that we did, we'd actually like to see from you. Are you currently selling online? If you are, go ahead and use the little hand icon on the right-hand side of that control panel. Let us know. If you're not selling online currently, we'd really love to know why. Use the questions window that you have in front of you and tell us why you're not currently selling online. Our team here, Dave and I, as well as several other people on our team, we create content such as webinars and the blog, and we want to really understand any hurdles that you've got or any roadblocks. So go ahead and tell us in the questions window if you're not currently selling online.
Yeah, it's good to see a lot of hands going up. So that's
yeah,
a
I
good sign.
see Adam and Adriana, Alexandra, Allison, and I see Nina says, barbershop not currently selling online, but you're accepting appointments online. So that's good, again, about that convenience. Let's see what else we got here. Jose has a website, but not fully understanding e-commerce. We've got lots of information on our blog to help you understand e-commerce. Amy is more in the training realm, but needs to create a website. We do have a website builder that you can use, and we'll show you a little bit more about that later. I see people in the insurance realm and financial services. Gina offers services, real estate agents. Okay. So we'll use this information later, Dave, and kind of comb through it, but a lot of interesting responses that I think will help us in our future content. So thank you so much for engaging with us and interacting with us there. Now let's talk about one of our customers, which is actually Treat Cupcake Bar. They were able to pivot to do more business online. Can you tell us a little bit more about their approach?
Yeah, so what was really great is, and I think as an interesting message here is that, Treat 80, she's the head baker over there, and she worked with our marketing advisors actually to update their website. They use Constant Contact's website builder, got that up, and now they're offering online ordering, and that they're able to actually easily update those product offerings and the information going on with their website that they can have. And they integrated their social media accounts with their Constant Contact accounts, so they kind of manage all of their marketing all in one place, so they can connect with customers and keep track of both emails, what's going on with their website, and of course their social media channels. And so, the point I was trying to make there is that oftentimes this stuff can feel overwhelming. Steph, you mentioned we have lots of resources that can help you do these things. If there's something that you are new to, we want to help you do that. But also we have services and there are people that you can contact and work with that will help you through all this stuff, like our marketing advisors. And so I think that's great that we actually have those resources for people to help them do that. As well as, a lot of our great partners out there that, work more closely with you and are maybe in your local community as well. So.
Yeah, the great thing about our marketing advisors, I love all of them, is that you can work one-on-one with someone who's got the experience. They get to know you, they get to know your business and your goals, and they can really help you to strategize and give you specific guidance based on your business needs. They can help you with all of the things that the marketing helped the Treat Cupcake Bar with, and a lot more. Now, we've got a link, we'll share it in the chat window on the marketing advisors. It's just a little ways down the page if that's a service that you're interested in. Now, I just want to mention again, we've got tools to help you create a website, stores and e-commerce, and even, use social media and manage it all from one place. We want to make your lives a lot easier. Dave, can you start to break down what actions our audience should take here in order to do more business online?
Yeah, so if you're not already, of course, that means taking your business online, right? You got to have a website. That's kind of your home base online. As we've mentioned, Constant Contact has a website builder to help you get that up, quickly. You think about what are the products and services that you can offer online and allow people to purchase. And if you're just getting started with this, it doesn't need to be a full online store, although we have tools that allow you to do that. We have another tool called Shoppable Landing Pages that allows you to create just a simple page to sell a product on. And so those are the types of things that you can try to at least just get your feet wet with these things. If you have a product that sells well, throw up a shoppable landing page and see if you can get some people purchasing that online. And then, you want to make sure that you're using your tools like email and social media to drive business to your website and your store, of course, and get the word out about those products and services that you do offer.
Yeah, it's not just about using email or social media, which is a common misconception I hear from people all the time. It's about all of these tools working together, and especially when you use email and social, you want to drive them back to your website. And what I want to mention is, when we asked that question a little bit earlier about selling online, with our Constant Contact online stores, you don't just have to sell a physical product. You can sell digital product, such as like music or artwork or something like that, or even your services. So definitely a lot of options there. So don't feel like it has to be something physical. All right, so let's move on to lesson number 4, which is to collect and take action on customer data. Can you talk a little bit about why using data is so beneficial and what types of data are really going to be helpful for our audience?
Yeah, so just even before we get into the specifics of data beyond just having customers that you can contact, right? Like a simple email address, I think that's the first thing you're always going to hear us talking about, is that you're always going to need to be growing your email list. And because doing so really allows you to reach customers directly. And we've seen, particularly this past year, how important it is to do so. You're at the behest of social media channels that run on algorithms and determine whether or not somebody is going to see something you post there, right? And so being able to go directly to your customers gives you an edge up. And as you grow that list, the more you can do to understand, how who they are really is what it boils down to, allows you to be more precise in your marketing and overall just be more effective. And so ultimately it's about, right, we always talk about this idea of it's about reaching people with the right message at the right time. And so, you know, it's segmenting your lists, it's doing those types of things, it's getting people into groups based on interest or things that they have, understanding that every contact that you have is not the same, and so you can deliver the right messages to people. And you know, I'll add, you know, one of the things that's really exciting that if you, for any of our e-com folks out there, if you're in e-com and you have at least, you know, 5,000 contacts or so, you know, and you're using a platform to sell online, such as like Shopify, BigCommerce, or Magento. Yeah, I'm excited about our Pro package, right? And what that Pro package is it uses AI to actually analyze your contacts on an individual level, so that it allows you to sell more in less time without having to spend the extra time to go in and dig through the analytics and interpret the data. That stuff is all done for you, and it allows you to send, again, really live into that idea of sending the right messages to the right people at the right time based on what the AI is learning, and making product recommendations and doing all of that stuff. And I know, Steph, I think we have, we'll share a link out that people can check that out if they fit that criteria. You might be interested in seeing a demo of that, because it's really exciting and a huge time saver for people who actually don't have to, again, dig into and figure out all of the stuff going on with what the data and the analytics are showing you.
Yeah, some really exciting technology. Now, above what Dave was talking about with the AI and delivering relevant experiences, we have a lot of great tools to help you grow your list as well. And I've seen a couple of questions come in. We've got forms you can add to your website. You could do something like this. That's what we call a static form. It's in the same place on your website every time. We also have what are called pop-up forms, which can pop up at just the right time and catch people's attention, which, you know, sometimes we get the question is, you know, I don't like pop-up forms. Well, make sure you're providing some sort of value if you're going to interrupt their experience, and ask them for their email address, especially with that pop-up form. We've also got great landing pages, a lead generation landing page that you can create it, publish it, and share it just about anywhere online. It's really great to pair with your social media, create a post and share the link to your landing page on there, asking people to sign up to your mailing list. The other thing here is, I know someone was asking about getting leads from around the world. What you can do is you can create what's called a Facebook lead ad. Again, something you can do in constant contact. You can target the right audience by interest, age, gender, anything that's relevant to your business, allowing you to reach them, get in front of them, and then get them on your mailing list that way. So definitely a lot of really great options. And again, it goes back to kind of that first thing where we were talking about trying new things this year. Try some ads. Now, Saluna Garden Farm was actually a great example of this, using data. Can you talk about the steps that they took over the past year?
Yeah, well, you know, so they had to temporarily pause meeting people in person, and they've had this email list that they developed over their years in business, or like, you know, the past 10 years that they've been in business. And really, you know, through having that list and thinking like, okay, what are the things that we do? What they did was they created a community supported agriculture subscription. You know, one of it was I think a peony. Is that how you pronounce the flower? I think.
Yes,
but they created a peony share that they emailed out about it, and they sold out. They set up an online store where people could order that, and they sold out in a day when they did that. And so again, shows the power of having a list that you can go to, you know, at a moment's notice. Hopefully you're doing things to stay in regular touch with them, but even if it's something that, you know, was spurred out of a moment like this, they were able to get to those people and bring in sales right away. So again, just another thing to think about, and happy for Saluna Garden Farm for being able to do that.
Yeah, it's all about letting people know what you have out there and pushing the message out. Now, what are some specific actions you would recommend that our audience take in order to collect and better utilize customer data?
Yeah, so I mean, the first thing is making sure that you are collecting, right? At the very least, make sure that you're collecting emails from your customers or potential customers at every touch point, right? Typically, we talk about this idea of, right, you're either in person, less frequently now, in print or online, right? So really think about those locations, using your social channels from time to time to point people towards your email list. Try to get those people. I often describe social media as kind of like the big party. And the email list is kind of like the after party where you get those people that are really your people a little bit closer to you, right? And so you're able to reach them in a place that's a little bit more personal than the big social media space, right? And so really thinking about collecting those emails, looking at the reports that you have, right? You can think about, this again kind of leads us towards this idea of segmentation, but thinking about the people that are engaging with you regularly. Are there VIP people that you would, the people that open and click all the time? Who are those people that do purchase from you all the time? Thinking about ways to, do things for them or are often going to get you bigger benefits back, right? So it help you find new opportunities, and then you can start thinking about ways to, collect more information over time. If you have customers, I'm thinking in particular of, if we go back to Flow Yoga, who was, been traveling the world, they know where those people are. They can think about things that are specific to an area. Maybe they have teachers in different locations, right? They can start marketing and speaking directly to those audiences. And I think that's ultimately what having this data allows you to do, is think through and understand who's on your list and who's doing that. And I think, and then using those more advanced, right, using more of those advanced techniques like segmentation, grouping them based on, I think, an easy example of this is, nonprofits. When you're thinking about, you have your board, you have volunteers, you have donors, you have, all of these different groups of people that you are talking to. It's easily see how you may not want to be talking to them always about the same things, or you might want to get a specific message to those specific people. And then, we talked a little bit about the pro package, and really beyond segmentation, really looking at, from a behavioral analysis standpoint, how can you start to really pay attention to what people are doing when you're using those tools, and so when to get the right messages to people, and and even hopefully that happens automatically for you, so you can sell more in less time.
Yeah, we get asked all the time how someone using email marketing can improve their results. Segmentation is actually one of the best ways to do that, because when you receive, as a consumer, you receive relevant information, you're more likely to actually pay attention, to open up that email and then take action. Now, for those of you who are wanting to get started segmenting your list, I'm really excited because we're launching a new webinar next week on January 19th. It's called How to Segment Your List to Get Better Email Marketing Results. So we'll share a link in the chat window if you want to register for that. But if that's something you haven't done yet, I would definitely suggest you taking that as a strategy. It's a great opportunity to improve your results. All right, so let's move on to lesson number 5, which is build your brand with storytelling. Dave, can you talk a little bit more about this, the importance of storytelling and what it really means for small businesses?
Sure. So, I think we talked about, compared to 2019, 60% of consumers have made more of an effort to support small businesses in their community. And then another 20% intend to make an effort to shop small. And really, when you're thinking about the real advantage that small businesses have compared to larger businesses, is that you really have these close ties with your customers and your local communities. And people do business with people that they know, like, and trust, plain and simple. And the more you can do to really show the personality of your business and the people behind it, really the more likely you are, or customers are, right, to feel connected to you, which leads to more business in the long run. And so you really want to use those channels that are available to you and the technology to really try to bring that personality to life, right? And so when we say, also, when you start thinking about keeping communications, personal, what we mean there is, talking to people directly, right? It's not about airing your dirty laundry and getting personal, anything like that, right? It's just treating people like people and talking to them as if, using these channels to talk to people as if they were in the room with you. And so you'll also want to consider doing things like sharing customer stories. How are they using your products and services, and letting people share those stories and bringing that stuff to life, bringing that personality and kind of a feeling for, particularly in places where they may have been online. I mean, we see a great example here from the cheese shop. We'll talk a little bit more about them in a second, but that's such a great energy to be in that shop, and you can't be there, and kind of bringing that to life a little bit on the online channels that are available to you help you live into that kind of storytelling and the building a brand that you're building online.
Definitely. I loved your point about talking to people like they're in the room with you. When you think about it and kind of switch the perspective to something like that, that allows you to use the verbiage and information in a way that is going to be more responsive when your customers see it in an email or in a post or something like that. So great point. Let's talk about the Concord Cheese Shop, which I know we've talked about quite a lot if you've joined our webinars in the past. We found that they've done a really great job of storytelling. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about their approach?
Yeah, so Peter, the owner of the shop, you just see on the screen there at the bottom there, and Stevie, who's their cheesemonger over there and kind of their marketing guy, right? They took a look at some of what was going on, and of course, right, again, it's the personality of the shop, right? How you feel when you're there, and they looked at what was going on with each of the social media channels that they were using, and things kind of felt disjointed. And they wanted to build on the strong brand that they have when people are in person. And so really, they made it a priority to really try to bring that brand to life online and reach their people. And so, they're using their website, their email marketing, and social media and all of that to connect with their customers, and really refining how they were using those so to be more consistent on those marketing channels. And really that gave them the ability to communicate in a way that people are looking forward. Like, for example, they know that every day they're going to see the daily menu of what's going on. They know every Friday there's going to be a dinner that they can order to bring home, a family dinner, that type of thing. And they know that they have curbside pickup, and they're having fun with it and showing the people working there and, making the best out of what their situation is. And I think that's the important thing that a lot of businesses can do. And again, to make those connections with people on a human level that bring people in and bring people towards you.
Great points. And I saw a comment from Linda. She has no product to show because she's a service business. I just want to point out all these tips can definitely apply to all types of businesses, especially when we're here talking about storytelling and bringing a brand to life. I mean, it depends on what kind of service business you have, but if you're consulting with other businesses about marketing or something, like in that case, you are the product and you can still show yourself working behind the scenes and things like that. And I don't know if you had anything else you maybe wanted to add to that question.
No, I'm glad you said that, because that's exactly what I was going to say. In the case where you're a services business and you don't have a physical product, like you are the product. and I mentioned a little earlier that people do business with people they know, like, and trust. And so you're able to use these channels. I like to consider it like this, where you're sharing information. Maybe you're using video, maybe you're talking to people and sharing your points of view and sharing, the things about your services, and people are starting to get a sense of what it is like to work with you, so that when they do contact you and they're ready to work with you, it's almost like you're skipping, 3 steps, because they already feel like they know you and they understand what you're doing. And it's kind of like, all right, how do we get started, versus like, all right, tell me about what's going on, and I want to make sure that you're the right person. You're kind of you're accelerating that whole process because they already feel like they know you. And so I'm glad you said that.
Exactly, a great point to bring up. Can you talk about the specific actions that you'd recommend small businesses to take to incorporate more storytelling?
Yeah, so I mean, I think one of the important things is to really take some time to kind of define what your brand identity is, and that just means like understanding, like, what is your business, like how would you engage with people, and how do you want people to feel when they engage with you, and try to translate that into what you're doing on your online channels. And I think another thing to think about is, when we were talking this year, we did, or I should say in 2020, we talked to a lot of celebrity entrepreneurs. Layla Ali Ali comes to mind and talked about the importance of having like a brand guide too, so that if you have people on your staff that are doing things and understanding you know, how you should be doing things and in what types of ways they should be responding to things and the types of things that you do online. So that's consistent, depending, you know, no matter who is doing that stuff is really important. So make sure that you're documenting that and you're referencing in that as you're doing things on your marketing and in your communications. And then really just take a look and across all of these different ways and say, because I think we get into we get kind of constricted a little bit when it's like, okay, now I'm going to write this website, and we kind of just write our website like everybody else's website, right? And then you kind of talk about yourself in the third person, and you know, if you think of like the cheese shop, for example, right? You go into that shop and like, you know, it's a different feeling. You want people to start to feel that and see what they're going to experience when they get there, and so you want to just make sure that your brand lives in your marketing and on those channels. And so, you know, take a moment to just look at them from an outside eye for a second and say, like, does this feel like the experience people are going to feel when they do business with us? And if it doesn't, that's where you want to just really go back to the drawing board and say, like, all right, how do we give this a little bit more life, so to speak, you know?
Yeah, I love that point about giving it life, because that, me as a consumer, that makes me have a much better connection and relationship versus me feeling like it's just someone behind a computer screen somewhere just typing and pushing messages to me. So all about the personality. All right, so I know we're running out of time, but let's talk a little bit about the last lesson, which is prepare for uncertainty. Can you talk about why this is such an important lesson that small businesses should take into the new year?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, I think we highlighted this as expect the unexpected, and it seems kind of weird to say like prepare for uncertainty because you don't know what to happen. But I think if we could learn anything from 2020, I think what we saw was that we don't necessarily, there's still stuff going on. We don't really know how it's going to pan out. But businesses that were in a better position to weather something happening obviously are faring better than those that weren't. You know, something that comes to mind is, I think when we were talking to Kevin O'Leary, you know, he mentioned that his businesses, some of the businesses that were within his portfolio didn't have their payroll records up to date at all. Right. And so that meant they were unable to, you know, they had to miss out on the paycheck protection program, right? Because they weren't able to apply for that because they were missing deadlines. And so this is an opportunity because something happened and something will happen in the future. If you can take a look at what's going on in your business and assess what's happening and look for those areas that you may be able to streamline, look for those areas where you might be able to eliminate something, where you are missing something that you definitely need. It's an opportunity to really kind of start to say like, okay, I need to get this stuff in order so that, you know, whenever the next thing comes up, whether it's good or bad, you're in a good position to be able to weather whatever that is that 2021 is going to throw at us, right? So I think that's what we mean there, is just take a moment, and we've got tons of resources, I think, for people to be able to use and start to assess that. And I think we'll talk about those here in a second. But yeah, like you bring it up here, right? So, you know, really assess the efficiency of the things you're doing, either daily, weekly, your monthly operations. Look for those opportunities to streamline. Take stock of the resources that you have available to you and any things that you might need. Look at the local resources that you have. Excuse me. We have tons of education available, your local Chamber of Commerce as well, Small Business Administration, all of those things that have resources to kind of help you with whatever you might be challenged with at the particular time. And then, of course, we've created these small business action plans to help people, particularly in the early throes of COVID-19. But again, they provide a great framework for you to be able to start to look through and kind of work through this stuff. So you're making sure you're hitting the right items. So I would encourage you to check those out as well.
And I do want to mention, we'll have Rachel share that link to the small business action plans in the chat window. But again, we've got some really great information on our blog, just blogs.constantcontact.com. Tons of information that we're constantly updating. All of those types of things can help you kind of think ahead, even through some of these other lessons that we've talked about today. Use it as a really great resource for yourself. All right, so as we start to wrap up today, let's just go ahead and quickly recap the 6 lessons that you should take into 2021. First, make sure you're trying something new. It's really going to help you to power on and be successful this year. Don't forget to stay in touch and top of mind. It's not just about marketing, but you want to keep people updated and actually make them feel safe doing business with you. Do more business online. That means you want to have a website, you want to sell online, and of course use email and social media together because you can start to drive traffic back to your website and your store. Don't forget you want to collect email addresses and other pieces of data that you can, and also take action on that data. Because when you send an email or you run an ad or share a social post, you're getting all that data behind the scenes and seeing, more people interacted with a particular topic. Don't forget about the use of storytelling to really help you to bring your brand to life. Don't make it feel like there's just a robot or someone sitting behind a computer screen. Make it feel really personable. And then last but not least, while it might seem a little bit impossible, you can prepare for uncertainty by taking stock of those resources and organizing yourself a little bit. Now, we do have a guide that actually goes along with the lessons we've talked about today, and you can download that guide as you're preparing for your marketing in the new year. And we'll share that again in the questions window as well as in the follow-up email with the recording later. Now, Constant Contact, like you've seen today, has so many tools to help your small business. We've got websites, online stores, e-commerce opportunities, email, social media, all to help you along the way. So if you don't already have an account, you can sign up for a free trial or just go to constantcontact.com. Again, that link will be in there. We're going to get to a few questions here, but one thing to note is before we end the webinar today, just a survey is going to pop up. Just take a minute or two. It's 2 simple questions and tell us what you thought about the webinar today. All right, so we have a ton of questions here, Dave. Let's see what we've got that maybe we haven't already answered. So I see Rena asks, is there a way to not use social media? Email, e-commerce sites, website are all okay. What do you think there?
I'm not sure. Is there a way to not use social media, meaning just like not use it at all?
Yes.
I think if that's the case, then I think yes. I don't think you have to use social media, but I think you have to be aware that people are using social media. And that might be a way that people are finding your business, or maybe a way that people are talking about you. And so the question becomes like, is that a way for your business to be able to communicate with them? And yeah, you may not need to. So I think yes, but I think you have to look and evaluate those opportunities, because there could be ways that, we typically say, when you think of if you're connected with people that are on social media and that are your customers and you're engaging with them, one, you're keeping yourself top of mind. But 2, as people engage with you and do those things, their connections often see those engagements. And so you're exposing yourself to other people that are connected to them, which are probably like them and maybe connected in the same areas. And so they make good prospects for your business as well. And so it's just, you want to evaluate those things before you make a hard yes or no. But I think there are ways, yeah, sure, you can go without it, but you have to evaluate that for your business.
Agreed. It would kind of be a one-off, as we see most people or most businesses having some means of communications and really great engagement for social media. Now, Edward asks, part of a marketing strategy is maintaining existing customers and clients. In the past year, we've used Constant Contact for maintaining existing client relationships. Is there a way to differentiate between the 2 audiences within Constant Contact?
Yeah, so I think this is, if I'm understanding this question correctly, that's, really, again, what we're talking about when we talked about segmentation, right? And really thinking about using those tools within your account to create lists of people, whether that's just manually you're creating a list, or you can use things based on, maintaining those relationships, paying attention to who's opening and clicking and the actions they're taking, and creating kind of dynamic lists with the tool we call Segments that allows you to see who's most engaged with your emails and doing those types of things. But yeah, you would use segmentation to be able to say like, okay, these are these people and these are these people, and then think about how you want to communicate with those people based on who they are specifically.
And I would check out that webinar we shared earlier that's happening next week. You can register for that. That sounds like it might be a good opportunity for you, Edward. So Frederica, I hope I said that right. One of my friends never got the email sent on my first campaign. What could be the reason?
I'm not sure.
I can
Go
take
ahead,
a
Yuri.
stab at it, Dave,
Yeah.
if you'd like.
Sure.
So, there's really a lot of things that could be happening there. It really depends on the ISP she's using, the email program she's using. It could also be something in your email that triggered it to go into a spam folder. I would probably suggest that she add your friend add your email address to their contact list so that, that's one way. If you're having trouble with that, we do have a team that can certainly help you with that. You can call our support team and they can really help you to troubleshoot. But I would have your friend look first and see if it ended up in the junk folder, see if it was delivered there. That's a starting point to know where our support team can at least start to help you there. So let's try to answer one more question here. Dave, Lisa asks, how do we reach people not on our email list like those in other countries?
Well, I think that's where, right, social media and being online really comes in, and thinking about the things that you can do to just reach people on a global level. I think what you want to do is ultimately get those people onto your email lists, so that way you can contact them. But if you're using things like social to engage with people, right, you're engaging a global audience. If you're writing content and publishing that on your website, that's stuff that is searchable by a global audience, right? And so it's just really about participating online, I would say, and maybe looking for other businesses and other sites that you might be able to partner with that are reaching audiences in other countries that you're looking to target. But ultimately, you partner with them, and it's ultimately about trying to get those people that are onto your email list so you can contact them directly.
Yeah, it's definitely a great opportunity for those lead ads we mentioned to explore, as well as some of those other partnership opportunities that you might want to think about. Now, I do see we're actually a little bit past the top of the hour now. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. With the follow-up email, we'll send a link out that's going to go to our community page. Over the next week or so, we're going to spend some time answering as many of these questions as we have. I know we didn't get to a whole lot, but I also know that we probably had over 100 questions come in, so very, very busy in there. And we will do our best to answer those questions. So just click on the link probably within the next week so that you can see the answers to those questions. Again, it'll be in the follow-up email with the recording. Dave, I want to thank you so much for sharing your expertise and information with us today and joining us. And everyone in the audience, thank you for participating and joining us today.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a great day. Bye.